13 rockets on the commons, and the city was beautifully illuminated. Everything was conducted with the greatest order and decorum, and the face of and the gladness was universal. There may be the 4th of July then, glorious and ever memorable day. Be celebrated through America by the sons of freedom from age to age till time shall be no more. Sound familiar? Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Cynthia gave me the membership report for today, and we have 19 members here and one guest. Our treasurer's report shows that we have a balance of $1,700.87 as of now. So, any questions about those issues? Then we're going to go ahead and move on to July birthdays. And I understand Becky Davis is going to present our birthday flowers for Adana.
All right. Oh, no. And it's spam, I'm sure. Okay. Well, anyway, I'm Adana today, if you can imagine that. I would never live up to it. She's so beautiful. Okay. Well, our July birthdays are David Ayer, July 7th. Come on up. Okay. Yay, David. Sure. Bob Nixon. No Bob Nixon? Okay. Cynthia Duval. Tony Alonso. And Aida Alonso. She'll just have to hold both. He's coming. I know he is. And Nina Billington. I know she's not here. And Adana Hilkemeyer. And she's not here. Are there any other July birthdays that we did not catch by any chance? No? Okay. Well, anyway. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear classics. Happy birthday to you and many more. Yay. All right.
Taking the picture. 14,000 people. There you go. Bill's got a picture, and Lynn's got a picture. Who's the rest of those?
I don't know yet.
All right. Well, happy birthday, July birthday people. So let's move on to old business. We talked about what we're doing with the balance of our treasury. And it's been decided that we're going to share the expense with, is it New Covenant? Is it Sunday school class? The New Covenant Sunday school class and Colonial Classics will both contribute toward the cost of replacing the outdoor mats outside the house, the worship center. They're faded and worn, and we're going to get some new ones. Gus Lopez is getting all the information about buying those, and we will donate around $500 from Classics to help pay for the mats. And we'll let you know when they come in and what the exact amount was. Other old business is our summer project that is starting today, and that's donating items to the San Antonio Humane Society. We're celebrating the dog days of summer. So there's a wish list, a link to the wish list on your July newsletter. And you can go to the website and look and see specific things they need. But I know some of the items are bath or beach towels, blankets, newspapers. And you can bring those to the August meeting, or you can bring them on the day that we're going to deliver the items to the Humane Society, which tentatively is Monday, August 19th. So keep an eye out on your newsletter for that and think about if there's something that you can bring to contribute. I have one item of new business, which is I'd like to read a thank you card from Swen and Joan Borg. You know that we donated money to the endowment fund in their honor when they moved. And so I want to read this note from them. They said, "Dear Colonial Classics, thank you so much for the donation to the endowment fund in our honor. It was very thoughtful. You will always have a special place in our hearts. We hope we can find a group similar to this that can fill at least half the void. Love, Swen and Joan." So I thought that was very sweet. And I don't think there's really any other new business right now unless there's something I forgot. So with that, I'd like to introduce our program speaker today. Terry Gutierrez is originally from New York and has lived here in San Antonio for the last 18 years. She's currently the executive director of Friends of Hospice San Antonio, a local nonprofit that educates the community about hospice and raises money to pay for uninsured Price is Right, or what is that? Oh, I see. There's he said I could read. I didn't write my stuff down. How's everybody doing today? Good. Thank you so much for inviting me. I was telling some of your members before I've been the executive director at Friends of Hospice for the last 2 years. And before that, I worked for Methodist Mission Home. Have you heard of them? And I worked for them for 16 years. And so they would send me all over the state to Methodist churches all over the state to
and then they rally and their health gets better, they get off the house.
Yeah, so I mean, you don't have to, I want you to know that you don't have to wait until the last minute of your last dying breath to go on hospice. You can get hooked up with hospice way before then, whenever you get that diagnosis, so you can get that care that you need. If you, Bob, if you could do the next, where am I? Oh, there it is. No, that's the first one. If we could go to the next one, please. Perfect. Hospice is a type of healthcare. It focuses on relief and support of terminally ill patients' pain, symptoms, emotional and spiritual needs at end of life. It prioritizes comfort and quality of life by relieving pain and suffering. So what that means in layman's terms is, I think the thing that most people, because I was a hospice social worker and I saw so many people pass and was involved in their care in their last days. Over 100 of my patients passed away on hospice. And I think most people are most afraid. Well, maybe I should ask you guys, what are you most afraid of at the end of life? Has anyone thought of that? Like, what would you be most afraid of at the end of life? Sorry, Patty, what'd you say? Say it. I can't hear you. You're making a joke, but dying, you're afraid what you're going to die of. And a lot of people are afraid of the pain that might be involved with dying. Because I know for me, I'm not so much afraid of death because I know death is just a part of life and it's just the way of the world and the way God intended it. But for me, it was always the pain. Like, I don't want to die in pain. And that's what hospice is so great at. They're experts at pain management. And so if you ever had that fear of dying in pain, or what am I going to do? How's it going to feel? I just don't want to. A lot of us remember our older relatives passing away, maybe in terrible pain, because there wasn't hospice back then, and doctors didn't know that much about pain management. And so now it's a whole different world. There's so many great medications that can help with pain. There are doctors in hospice and nurses that are experts at that, at end of life care. And so, for example, something I learned when I was a hospice social worker, because you know how we always want people to eat, right? And when they stop eating, we get very fearful. Like, oh my God, they've stopped eating. They have to eat. We're not thinking, well, they're at the end of their life, so they don't really need to eat. But we're so used to feeding as a way of showing love that we get very freaked out when somebody who's close to death, or even 6 months to death, they stop eating. Well, the truth is, that's the body. The body does that. The body's organs start shutting down little by little, and so they don't need to eat. And so if you force them to eat, it's actually hurtful and it hurts them. And so even though you're doing it out of love, you want them to eat, you're actually hurting them by doing that because they don't need to eat anymore. And it's a natural process of stopping eating. Eventually the organs close down and you don't really need to eat. And so force feeding someone who's dying is really not a good thing, or pushing them to eat when they don't really want to. It's not a good thing. But that's something I learned at hospice that I didn't know as a layperson. And I think a lot of people don't know that. So I just want to go over a little bit about what hospice is, because part of what we do is hospice education. We go all over and talk about hospice. I'm always so amazed at how fearful everybody is of talking about death and dying, particularly in religious organizations, because I know I'm Jewish, as I told you, but I know as Christians that you think about God a lot, you think about Jesus and returning to him when it's time, and living a good life and the gloriousness of returning to him. I'm always so amazed at how fearful people are of death. You would think that it would be more of an acceptance for a religious person of, this is just the way God intended it, and this is something we're all going to go through. It's nothing to be afraid of. Like birth, like other things in our lives, it's part of life. It's part of the life cycle. There's nothing to be afraid of. And I didn't learn that until I was a hospice social worker, to be honest, because I was fearful of death. This was in my 20s and 30s. I was a hospice social worker. So I wasn't thinking about death, right? I was thinking about going out and having fun and living my life. I wasn't even thinking about hospice. And it was such a great experience for me to be a hospice social worker, because after I got through the initial fear of watching so many people die and just started to accept it as a normal part of life, I learned so much from my patients about how to live life, how to live your life, how to feel about life, and all the things that they talked about. At the end of life, we do something called a life review. Have you heard of that? Where the patient normally just starts to think about their life, right? And what their life has been and what has it meant and what are their relationships and what do they regret and what are they happy for, and just all the things that you think about at the end of life, right? And I learned so much as a young social worker about how I want to live my life, because they told me everything. Because when you're a social worker, and I don't know if you know this, and I was a social worker for 30 or 40 years, I'm ashamed to say, because I'm showing you my age, but no one wants to see the social worker, right? If you're working with child abuse, for example, nobody wants to see the social worker. Don't come to my house. I don't want to talk to you about child abuse. I'm not abusing my kid. Nothing's wrong. Everything's fine. So people, as a social worker, they're lying to you constantly. If you're doing drugs, you're not going to tell the social worker you're doing drugs. You're going to lie to the social worker about doing drugs. So I spent a whole career in social work with nobody telling me the truth. Everybody lying to me, nobody telling me the truth. And I felt like I couldn't really help because nobody was really telling me the truth so that I could help them. They were just didn't want to see me, didn't want to talk to me, go away. But with hospice, it was completely different, because nobody wanted to talk to them about end of life because people are afraid of talking about that. And so when they would talk to their family about dying, the family would go, no, no, you're not dying. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. And they weren't fine, but nobody wanted to talk to them about it. And they needed to talk about it. And so, I mean, they were so happy when I walked in the door and they wanted to talk about everything. And at end of life, there's no reason to lie anymore. There's no reason to lie to the social worker anymore. You want to tell the truth about your life. You want to talk about it with somebody. It's almost like bearing witness with the person. You're standing with them. You're not trying to avoid the problem like you are with other kinds of social work. Like if you're homeless, I want to get you a house. If you're doing drugs, I want to get you into a program. But with death, I don't want to try to fix it. I just want to help to guide you through it. I want to be there with you to guide you through it. So it's a whole different way of practicing social work. And it was so amazing. I can't tell you how amazing it was for me, how much I learned. I remember every one of those 100 patients because they told me everything about their lives, everything about their regrets, everything about who they loved, all the great things they did and the things that they regretted or the things that they wish they hadn't done. And I just learned so much about how to live my own life by doing that, by being with them and just being with them and through it. Now, some of them didn't want to see me. As soon as I said hospice, they didn't want to see me. I had one client, a patient, who I knocked on the door and said I was the hospice social worker. He's like, go away. I don't want to talk to you. Go away. So I said, I'll go away, but I'm going to come back next week. Here's my card, slipped it under the door. I'd love to talk to you. If you feel like talking, I'd love to talk. The next time I came, he said, well, I don't want to talk through the door, mind you. The door wasn't even open. I don't want to talk to you about hospice. It's too depressing. And I said, well, I could tell you a joke if you're depressed. We don't have to talk about sad things. We can talk about funny things. I have a joke. And I used to be a bartender, put myself through college as a bartender. So I know a lot of jokes. Some of them aren't too nice, but I know a lot of jokes. And so he said, okay, tell me a joke. So I'm standing outside the stoop telling him a joke. And I'll never forget this guy. He was such a nice guy. And he laughed and laughed about it. And he opened up the door and let me in. And so we started to talk about whatever he wanted to talk about. For me, it's not, I'm not going to say what you need to talk about. I want to talk about whatever you're feeling, whatever you want to talk about. And he talked about his life, and he had such a good sense of humor. So it was a thing between us that whenever I would come, I would have to tell him a joke at the door before he would let me in. It was a thing. And I always had to run around finding a joke before I would go to his house. But at the end, when he passed, he put on his tombstone, "I told you I was sick." He had such a good sense of humor. I love that guy. And 40 years later, I still remember him. That's the impact he made on my life. So I say this to tell you that I don't want you to be afraid of hospice. I don't want you to look at it as a bad thing. I want you to see it as just a part of life. It's going to happen to all of us, rich, poor, religious, not, any religion, any age, any economic, good, bad, we're all going to pass away someday, and we're all going to need hospice care at the end, unless you get hit by a bus, and then you don't need hospice care, right? There's only two ways to go, really. Suddenly, where you have no preparation, or you know about it and you have time to prepare. In some ways, that could be such a blessing to have that time to prepare, because you can say the things to people that you love that you wouldn't be able to say if, God forbid, you got hit by a bus. You know, you can go back and fix some things that maybe you felt you didn't do correctly. A lot of my job as a hospice social worker was going back and helping them to fix something that they wanted, or someone they wanted to contact that they had lost touch with, and I would try to help, or all kinds of stories I have of hospice last wishes and things that they wanted me to help them with. It's so amazing, such an amazing thing, because you get all this help with hospice. You get nurses, you get doctors, you get volunteers, you get, could you push the next slide, please, Bob? There you go. First of all, to qualify for hospice care, you need a diagnosis of 6 months or less. Like I said, that doesn't mean you're going to die in 6 months. It just means that's what the doctor thinks, based on what your disease process is and how you're doing. But some people rally and they stay on hospice for a year or two, like I said, and some go off hospice and come back later on when it progresses, or sometimes it never does. You just never know with disease progression how it's going to go. You need to, if you want hospice, you need to have exhausted your care. In other words, not your care, because you're still going to get medical care to be comfortable in all your needs, but to try treatments that are going to stop you from dying. If you've tried all those and you've stopped, and please stop me if you have any questions, because I'd love to answer while I'm talking, because I can talk forever about this subject. I love it so much. You need to have been able to say, you know, I'm not interested in doing treatments anymore. I want to be comfortable. I want to just be comfortable. I want medical help in that way, but I don't want to go through chemo anymore. I don't want to do radiation anymore. Been there, done that. It's just made me sicker. Some people die from radiation and chemo, to be honest with you, and not from the disease. So some people get to the point where they just don't want to do that anymore. And so that's when you might want to consider hospice. Before that, I don't know if you've heard of palliative care, but if you have a disease that progresses over long periods of time, you can go on palliative care, and then from palliative care, go on hospice care. With palliative care, you can still do some of the treatments if you want. So it's a progressive kind of a thing for all of us to take advantage of. You'll get, like I said, you'll get nurses and doctors that specialize in this. It's all they do. So they know everything about the dying process. So many families are so freaked out by a person dying, and they don't know what to do, how to support the person so that they're comfortable, how to talk to them. And some families have some issues that they need to talk about too. And we do that also. Hospice does that also. So it's such a great service for anyone who needs it, who gets that kind of a news from a doctor that, you know, this might be towards the end of life. We're all kind of going towards that. I think of hospice so differently now that I'm older than I did when I was in my 20s and 30s, right? It's such a blessing for me. It's such a makes me feel so comforted to know that there is hospice out there that'll help when I need it. And I'm going to be the first one online. I tell you what, I'm not afraid of that at all. I really want that help. So I hope you do too. Um, you get a pastor that comes to your home to pray with you in any way that you want, in addition to your own pastor, who I'm sure is going to come visit also. But you get a dedicated.
Put you so much in every way. Where did Bob go?
He went to the bathroom. Bob, did you go to the bathroom? You're shirking your duties, Bob. Next slide, please. I'm just teasing. I had that New York sense of humor. I'm sorry. Please don't take offense. How do we pay for hospice? Do you guys know how we pay? We pay through Medicare, we pay through Medicaid, we pay for any private insurance. They all have hospice riders. It's a benefit that's afforded to you if you have any of those insurances. And it's free for you. You don't have to pay for it. It's amazing. It's an amazing thing. But what do you do if you don't have insurance? Have you ever thought about that? What do you do if you're dying and you don't have insurance? Suppose you're in a homeless shelter like Haven for Hope, and they give you a diagnosis of a terminal illness. What do? You don't have any family. You don't have any insurance. What do you do? How do you pay for hospice? Suppose you're a mother in a home and you're being hit at home. You're a battered woman, and you finally leave your husband, but because you left him, you lost your insurance, and you get a diagnosis of end of life. What do you do then? You know how long it takes to those of you who have gone on Medicare or any private insurance know, you know how long it takes to get qualified for those things? You could be dead way before you ever get qualified for insurance. And so what do? You're uninsured. Well, how do you get hospice care? Well, the truth is that under Medicare,
That's what we're all about.
Bob, oh, he left again. You left again, Bob. Next one, please. That's where we come in. And these beautiful ladies are our founding members, some of our founding members. 33 years ago, we started Friends of Hospice San Antonio because they had experiences with hospice and they were so grateful that they had hospice care, but they knew that there were some in our community that don't have that luxury, that have to die alone and in pain because they don't participate in hospice. They can't because they can't pay for it. So they started to raise money for uninsured hospice care through Christus DNA Hospice. And they started having all these events to raise money. They got all their friends involved. We're talking about over 33 years, hundreds and hundreds of people that have been involved with Friends of Hospice. We have a Valentine luncheon. We have a Christmas poinsettia party. We do things throughout the year for our veterans. We do all kinds of things to raise money for uninsured hospice care. If you could do the next one, please, Bob. psychosocial wraparound services that all of us get, but some people don't in our community. And so it's so important. I can't tell you how important it is. We offer, now we have over 300 people that are in our network of membership. And so every July 1st, and today is July 1st, so we're starting our new fiscal year today, July 1st. So if you're going to become a member, I would love for you to do that. There's membership envelopes out there for you. We have year-round events, and that's raising the money, the 150,000. We have a 26-member board of directors. Many of your members here of this church are part of our membership. Patty, Becky, Adana, Cynthia, who am I forgetting? Luann Knowles, our member. We have so many of your members are members of our organization, and such a bedrock members. I mean, tried and true members that volunteer for everything and do everything, and we appreciate them so much because we're an all volunteer organization. 100% of all the money that we raise goes to hospice care. It doesn't go anywhere else. So you don't have to worry it's being used for other things. It's not. The angel tree, Lois is not here, but Lois Armour does the angel tree with us. Even if you're not a member, you can participate with us. For example, if you have a loved one at Christmas time and you want to honor them, you can give us a donation of $25 or $50, and we'll write an angel tree on our ornament of your loved one, and we'll put it on our angel tree so they'll be honored. So you don't have to be a member to give to us. We want you to be a member because we want you to be involved, because we're a community. We're not just an organization, we're a community. And some of our members have been members for 33 years. Some of those founding women that you saw on there are still members to this day. And so it's a really amazing organization. I'm so proud to be involved with them. They've welcomed me with open arms. Bob, if you could do the next one, please. You'll get, if you want to be a member, you'll of course be a part of our membership. You'll be involved with our membership booklet. All your information will be in there. All the members are in there. So if you ever have a question for another member, you want to invite them to other things, you'll have their phone numbers and emails. We're a community and we help each other. You'll get 4 times a year a newsletter that I do myself, telling you all about what we're doing, pictures of our group and all the different activities we've done. It's a lot of fun. And then of course you'll be invited to all of our events. You're invited even if you're not a member, but you're especially invited if you're a member, especially going to be calling you and bothering you to come because I have your phone number, so I'm going to be calling you. Next one, please, Bob. I tried to find some pictures of some of the members that are members here of some of our events. So you'll see a lot of the members. There's Patty, because she's our historian. She does our yearly book, and that's actually out there for you to see. She does a great job of that. We're so proud of her book, all the different events. Lois in front of the country. All of our events are at very interesting places. We go to the San Antonio Botanical Gardens. We do some of our events there. Some of our events are at the San Antonio Country Club. So if you don't belong to the country club, but you like to see what it's like, it's a cool thing to come. Because I've never joined the country club. I don't have that much money, but I get to go to some of the events and see it. And it's kind of cool. It's a really nice venue. And then we also had one this year at the Petroleum Club, which is really a nice venue too. So it's lots of nice places that we have events, and it's very fun. There's Becky Walker. There's Cynthia. There's Adana at the table. There's Luann Knoll. That's an old picture, Patty. I know you told me you didn't want me to put up an old picture, but I don't care. I think it was a good picture. Patty's one of the only people I know that looks better now than she did with some of the back pictures. Because when I go back and I look at all the old pictures, I'm like, damn, she looks good. Actually, all of our members look good. Cynthia looks great. All of our members, really. Lois, you're all like very inspiring in terms of those of us that are growing older. Becky, you're all a nice looking group, as you are as well, I want to add. Anyway, does anyone have any questions? Because I could talk about this forever. Does anyone have any questions about hospice in general or our organization in general? I'd love to tell you more. Yes, sir. Oh, there's a microphone. Thank you.
Yes, I'm glad that you came here. And I have a friend who lived up in Minneapolis and he went to hospice care and he passed away.
Yes.
But what was really important to him, there was a volunteer organization that brought dogs around.
Yes.
And, you know, he never even had a dog, but, you know, they interact, they're very tame and trained. And he just loved that. And things like that, that maybe people don't always realize, hey, that really helps the patients. Lifts their spirits.
That's right. I'm glad you brought that up because Christus VNA Hospice, the hospice that we support, they have a pets program. They actually, because some patients, when they're dying, they're not working anymore. They've stopped working. And so the money stops coming and they don't have enough money for dog food. So they raise, they get dog food or cat food for them so they can still have their pets with them. They also do a veterans program. So if you're in hospice and you're a veteran, you get all these special things, like they come and pin you, and Veterans Day, you're honored in a special way. They do a flag ceremony for you. It's so wonderful. My dad was a World War II veteran, so that's he had that when he passed away. So it's just hospice is such a great thing for pets, for veterans, for family members. Your family members after you are gone are going to go through a grieving process and they're going to need some help with that. Hospice does bereavement groups so that they can talk about their feelings and process it. You know, so it's just so important. The hospice is so important in so many ways. I don't understand how everybody isn't on hospice. I know people hear the name hospice and they get all freaked out. But once you, getting a terminal diagnosis is a shock to the system and it is very frightening sometimes. But once you get over that initial shock and fright, you're going to need some help to go through it. You're going to need some support. And that's what hospice does. And hospice people have a special heart. They're so great. And they'll just sit with you. And I've got just so many stories about hospice patients and the things they needed. And I was just so blessed to be able to help, you know. Bob, I think someone else had a question. I saw someone else's hand. Yes, ma'am. Here's your microphone.
Is there an age limit? I mean, on the
No.
lower end,
No.
because I have a 4-year-old cousin who
Yes.
they discovered last week she had cancer and
Yes.
removed her kidneys and her kidney and a tumor and a bunch of stuff. just
Yes.
One day last week.
Yes.
And
Is she
I-
on hospice?
I don't know. I didn't know they
Well,
had hospice.
Well, maybe
for little
hospice is
bitty-
for anyone of any age,
Okay.
anyone who has a terminal diagnosis. Most people are older when they get that
Right.
diagnosis, but a lot of people are not. I mean, I had younger patients, of course, that's a different conversation because some of them
Right.
have young kids. What's going to happen to my kids when I go? There's all kinds of things you need help with. So of any age. And the Children's Bereavement Center here in San Antonio
Okay.
does a great job of when you have a younger person dying. Yeah, so you can be on hospice at any age. And because their family probably has insurance, if any of them in the family are working, the child would be eligible for hospice care. So it does not matter. Any age. We don't want to ever think of that, you know, the younger people could die, but everybody dies. That's for God to choose, right? When it's time. It's not for us to choose. Oh, you have a question too? Great. I've been looking right at you the whole time, so I'm sure you think I'm talking right to you. I am.
A couple of things, you were referencing patients that stop eating. When my grandmother was dying, we'd go and see her in the nursing home and she would say, I want to die.
Yes.
And it just freaked us out.
She was ready.
She was ready. We weren't.
I know.
So we just said, oh no, it's okay. You'll be fine.
Exactly.
Try and
That's
cheer
what
her
they
up
say.
here, have some more Jell-O.
Yes, eat,
whole
eat,
9
please.
yards.
I'm gonna make
Well-
your favorite foods, please. Yeah.
After she died, Bonnie and I started thinking about it. We realized that that's just the wrong way to do it.
Yes, and I know, and you do it out of love because you
Right.
love the person, so you're
Right.
not doing it for a bad reason. because people don't understand that as your organs start to slow down and shut down, if you eat when that's happening, it actually hurts you.
Right.
You actually have pain. And so your person probably said, no, no, I don't want to eat, because they can't eat, because
Right.
their body would reject it. They would actually get sick from it.
We want them to eat so they don't die.
So they won't die. And because it also makes you feel better,
Right.
because we show our love through eating and cooking and sharing food with each other. And so you're right.
There we go. The other thing I wanted to bring up was my mother died a few years ago, and we did get hospice.
Wonderful. I'm sorry
But-
for your loss.
But as we realized as she was getting sicker and closer to death, we were way behind the program. And by the time we got her hospice, it was like the last 3 days of her life.
This is exactly what people
And
do.
We didn't realize that we should have done it a
6
month or
months
two, 6
before.
months, right, right.
A year before, it wouldn't have mattered. You would have gotten all the help that she got in those 3 days. You would have gotten that plus more
Right,
way earlier. She would have been comfortable. The family would have been able to talk through what they needed. The hospice social workers and nurses are great at helping families. Like when you want them to eat and they don't, or you get freaked out because they're dying, they can help you also so yeah.
and then the other thing about that was I was talking with the nurse who came by. My mother had just been prescribed a whole bunch of
Morphine, yes.
on an individual dosage. So after she passed, the nurse and I made sure the morphine was disposed of correctly. So
Yes.
it's like, here's one for the nurse, and here's one for me, and here's one for, no, I didn't do that.
Well, morphine is a controlled substance, so
is,
they
so-
have to do that.
That was probably thousands of dollars worth of morphine
Of
that we had to
morphine.
destroy. But in talking with the nurse, I said, what's the hardest thing about being a hospice nurse? And she said it was letting go of my nurse duty to save everybody. Because when you're a hospice nurse, that's not your job anymore.
And doctors too, this is
Yeah.
the oath that they take, right, to make people well. But what do you do when you're not going to get well? They don't know how to do that care. And that's
Like I want to kill myself kind of thing. That means they're depressed. And so
try to treat the depression, because that's not a normal thing. Most people don't want to die. They want to live as long as they can, as long as they're comfortable and free from pain. And so in some ways, when you're free from pain, you can live longer, right? Because you don't wish every day for death because you're in terrible pain. You can put the pain aside and you can enjoy what life you have left. Because none of us really knows how long we have, right? This could be our last day today. We just don't know. And so it's just hospice patients just know more than we do. That's not any different from us, to be honest. We could all die at any time. So, yes, ma'am.
I wanted to know, how do you qualify to get benefits from your organization?
From my organization or from
Like-
hospice?
Well, no, not hospice. Like, say I needed hospice, but I can't afford it.
Yes.
How do I?
You would call Christus VNA Hospice, and I have a lot of their information on that table there, or any hospice. There are over 200 hospices in San Antonio, so you can do your research and pick the one that you like. We give our money to Christus VNA Hospice, so I always support them, but you don't have to. You can pick the hospice of your choice. If you don't have insurance, they're required to serve you anyway, as I said. So if they say, no, we're not going to take you, or they start making excuses, then you want to start to call us, and because Christus VNA Hospice isn't going to say no to you because we pay for that care and they know it. So they're looking for patients that don't have insurance. So they're not going to turn you away like others might. They're never going to blatantly turn you away. They're just going to not call you. You know what I mean? They're just not going to follow up like they should. So if you start to feel that way, it's because you don't have insurance, then you need to call Christus VNA Hospice, because they're not going to do that, because that's what we pay for. We give them that extra money, so they will. So that's the way you would do it. And I hope that you want to join our organization so that you can give back to the community of uninsured. So it's not a lot to join. It's only $75 for the year for individual membership, or more if you'd like. But it gives you all kinds of benefits throughout the year. You come to all kinds of fun stuff. So it's not a big commitment. Thanks for asking. Any other questions? Look at it, it's almost 11:45. I could talk about hospice so much. I just love hospice. I hope that this talk has made you not so afraid of hospice. And I hope that you'll talk to your friends and family and neighbors and say, look, there's nothing to be afraid of with hospice. We all fear death at some level. We all don't know what's going to happen, and it's fearful for us. But I don't know about you, but I'm a religious person, as I'm sure you are, because here we are in church. God wouldn't make us go through something if it was terrible, right? If you believe that God is a loving God, why would God make us go through something terrible that's horrible? I personally think that that's just the end of our life. It's just a part of the cycle, and that who knows what it's going to be. But God wouldn't make it terrible, because God is a loving God, right? Why would God make it terrible for us? I don't believe in that. So that's just my belief. We all have our own beliefs, of course, but try not to be afraid. Try to talk to your neighbors and friends about hospice so that they can do it earlier and get that help that they need beforehand. And so I hope something that I've said today has sparked that in you, that you'll think about it and not be so fearful, because we all need that help at the end of life. I know I'm going to get it. I'm going to be the first one online. Like, yeah, I want hospice. I want everything. Give me all the drugs. Give me everything. Yes, ma'am.
When you go on hospice, do you, are they the ones that supply all the medications that you're on, or do they just take you?
Yes, it's part of
Off
the
of them,
insurance.
or-
No, it's part of the insurance. All the medications that you need to live your daily life are given
Yes.
to you, just like they would with normal medical care.
Mhm.
The morphine that I was talking about, or any pain medicine that you need, the durable medical equipment, like maybe a bed in your home that goes up and down to make you more comfortable. If you need oxygen, they pay for that. Whatever is going to make you comfortable. They're not there to kill you.
Oh,
They're
okay.
there to make you comfortable.
I was just wondering though, would you still get your medications from your doctor, or
Yes.
do you get them from?
Well, you would get them through your doctor from, and hospice would help you. So the nurse, for example, will come visit you at home. You don't have to go, like those of us that have doctors, right? We have to go to the doctor's office to
Right.
get everything. They come to your home with everything. Your nurse will be visiting with you every week and saying, what do you need? What do you feel? I'll bring you the drugs that you need, so you don't have to worry about getting them from the pharmacy. Will deliver it to your home, so you don't have to worry. There'll be volunteers that'll come and show you how to use the oxygen if you need it. It's just so great. They just will give you everything, anything you can think of that you need. What they won't pay for is chemotherapy, radiation. If you want that kind of thing, then you want to stay off of hospice until you're ready to not want that anymore, and then you'll go on hospice. Sometimes people go on hospice and they decide a new treatment comes up or something, they decide, well, I want to try that. And they go off of hospice, and then they try that, and then they come back on hospice later on. So you can go on and off of hospice. There's different rules and regulations in terms of the way that you do that, but they'll help you do that. So don't be afraid of hospice. Please don't be afraid of hospice. be embracing of hospice. It's a loving, caring group of people that want to help and will help you so that you don't have to face that stuff alone. Because we're not experts at death, right? We're experts at living. We're living our lives, but we're not experts at death. But they are. They understand the process. They're going to help you through it. It's so cool. I know it's weird that somebody likes hospice so much, isn't it? I'm sorry. But I know the benefits of it. So that's why I'm so positive about it. It's such a great thing to have. Well, thank you so much for inviting me, including me, and my card is out there too on the table, so you can take it if you ever have a question. Like if you're like your friend who has a 4-year-old, if they need more information, they can call me. I can talk to them about it. And every state has hospice. Every community has hospice. There's hospice in every state and every part of the country. So thank you so much.
Mary, this is a thank you card from our group.
Oh, thank you.
And we've donated money to inner city development in your honor.
Oh, how wonderful.
Thank you for being here. That was very. It's a blessing before our lunch. So our August meeting is Monday, August 5th. I will be out of town, but Tony Hayes, our vice president, will lead the meeting. And we have a speaker coming from the United Methodist Rio, Texas conference office to explain to us some of the changes in the United Methodist Church since general conference and annual conference of this year. So that'll be really interesting. I hope you'll be here. Let's see, make sure if you want to take a crossword puzzle or a jigsaw puzzle that you grab one or more. They're right outside this room, and you're welcome to stay for lunch here in the
And that reminded me, the Bible school last week, service yesterday, and here we are again. That reminded me of what I had said last time I was here about that endless line of splendor. You know, that's John Wesley's idea that those that came before us that follow God, of course, then influence those that come after, and that this is this endless line of splendor. Now, this week in Bible school, it was kind of like a snapshot each day of someone along that endless line. The first day, Elijah. Elijah was a prophet who was able to demonstrate to the people of his day that the one true God was our God. And let's see, on another day, we had Jonah. Jonah didn't want to go to Nineveh, but he did. And people there understood God and turned to him. Paul and Silas traveled after Jesus was born, and they knew that he was our Savior. They spread the word. The whole week just seemed to be this endless line of splendor. And so here we are today, just continuing that and knowing that those children that were a part of Bible school have these stories and this understanding, at least in a budding form. And over time, they'll understand more about God's love. Today, this week, we learned that God is a friend who loves. Thanks, God. God is a friend who cares. Thanks, God. God is a friend we can trust. God is a friend forever. And God is a friend for everyone. Thanks, God. We said that over and over. So I would like to particularly recognize, oh, Patty, and they just walked out. The people that worked in Bible school, if you'd come forward, you two, Marcia, I think that there were 11 of us from this group that worked in VBS, but we're kind of tired. We might, maybe not here today. So let's see. Here you go. Oh, yeah, that's like an Olympic medal. Oh. Patty, come on down. David, let me give you this one. Is that a good one? How about this one? Patty, come on down. You're a brave soul being back today. Yeah, Becky needs to be here too, don't you? Yeah, I know. There you go. There you go. And let's see, here's one for you. Yeah, these ladies got us all fed this last week. Come on in. Whoops, come on down, Becky. Come on down. We're giving recognition to the folks that helped to bring these other little guys along that are part of this endless line of splendor. There you go. Thank you. All right. Yeah. So we had Colonial Classics very well represented in the group during the week. So if I could have our blessing, please. Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us back together. We ask your guidance as we go from here into the world to let others know of your love. Thank you for the food and the hands that prepared it. Help it to nourish our bodies and let us be in your service. Amen.
All right, our meeting is officially adjourned. I'll see you at lunch.
List of